Hello, we're back. The Bigenerates are back. Stuff the Bigeneration. We have our own version here from Middlesbrough, me and Cinnamon. Do you know what? Politics one day, talking TV the next. That was the week that was woke. Philip Morris on our Sunday show. Then Michael Herbert talking about the war games. I hope you're loving the diet of Doctor Who and beyond as much as I am enjoying doing it. If RTD and Bad Wolf can have their Whoniverse, can I have my sense for you orbiting lots of different places? Yeah. Right. Today is another two-hander. Me and Cinnamon battle it out as Doctor Who fans from different generations on various topics. You provide some of them as well. You can see we're talking about the DEI, we're talking about toxic fandom, we're talking about controversial writers, Neil Gaiman, the John Barrowman thing came up in the press again, RTD, he's not shutting up, and season 2, and everything else in between. So this is a two-hander. So it's only a two-hander if you have two people on. So I better get him on, eh? So hiya, Cinnamon.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be back. How is everyone doing? Nice to see a full chat there.
Yeah, it's going to be lively.
Throw in the comments.
It's going to be lively today. So, of course, this is just to start us off. Where do we stand? I mean, this is what made me laugh, Cinnamon, straight away, right? Because I saw this on a few tweets, Happy Who Year. And I thought, are we all looking forward to this year, actually? Are we looking forward? Are we kind of, full of trepidation? And, are you looking forward to season 2? Are you looking forward to the Blu-ray season 7? Are you looking forward to Jinx Monsoon or Fugitive Doctor or whatever coming back? Are you looking forward to the fact that Trump's getting rid of DI in America and RTD might have to change his ways? What are you looking forward to, Cinnamon?
Well, I am looking forward to a couple of those things. Series 7 Blu-ray, I always look forward to those. Those are like hands down some of the best things to come out of Doctor Who recently, isn't it? Those things that people really get behind. A lot of the things I'm actually really looking forward to this year are actually non-Doctor Who things, which is quite a shame actually. For my number one favorite thing in the whole world, that should be number 2, but it's not. It's there's a lot of all my other interests that are taking dominant.
Is it a surprise that I've started new pilot shows with different topics? I will always stick to Doctor Who, everybody, just in case. There's always somebody saying, oh, you're not doing Doctor Who. I'm doing 4 or 5 shows a week on Doctor Who. Here's another one. But I am also going to do other stuff because there's a world out there. Now, just to kind of get us all going, because we're going to get right into the controversial stuff in a moment. I love it's Tinted Who on Twitter, and they've colorized some beautiful shots. I love this Tomb of the Cybermen one. Absolutely love it. Look at that. I mean, it does make me want to see it in color. I'll have to say to you. And while we're on that, did you enjoy your War Games in color, Cinnamon?
I've got to hold my hands up. I have not watched it.
Oh gosh,
I've not watched it. I watched the Daleks one. I haven't watched this. It's just because it didn't interest me. I was going to, but then when I hear about the completely pointless, unnecessary, not even just the whole insinuating the master thing, putting that aside, the whole completely unnecessary putting the future doctors and even doctors that from a separate regeneration cycle, which the doctor didn't even know he'd be getting.
Isn't it?
I never saw the point in that. That was weird. Why would you show him the future incarnations he's going to get?
Did you notice?
As if
did you notice out of all the New Who doctors they inserted, they didn't put Chris Eccleston in? Why is that?
I had to put it in. I didn't. I had to put.
No. So let's get going. Obviously, people are tuning in, and I'm pretty sure we'll talk to you all in a moment. This, I mean, I'm saying Happy Who Year, as I was saying on Twitter. Are you looking forward to this year for whatever reason? Do tell us in the thread, and I'll certainly talk to you. But look at this, Russell Davies. There was a I think it's a tweet out there. It won't be like this forever. And of course, we've just had the inauguration of President Donald Trump. And then you've got a lady saying, stay out of US politics. And he basically says, F off. Now, I just think, oh, my God, this is the showrunner for Doctor Who. And then you've got this lady saying, fair dues, everyone's allowed their opinion. The next 4 years are going to be a challenge. And then he goes, the fight is on, darling. I mean, I don't want Doctor Who becoming a political football. And I don't remember JNT. I don't remember Verity Lambert. I don't remember any of the others wading so far into turf warfare of politics. Is this getting you excited about the brand of Doctor Who, or is this worrying you, Cinnamon, that we're going to be a political football?
Well, this is actually from Instagram, and it's funny, isn't it? Because it seems like Russell T Davies is slightly growing a habit of telling people to F off. I know someone personally that he said this to, and he's saying it again. Ironic, because I don't know this Sandra, I don't know who she is. I imagine she's probably American. So the irony of an English or Welshman, sorry, oh God, the irony of a Welshman or British person telling an American to basically, no, I'm gonna. I mean, everyone's allowed an opinion, but it's just the cheek of it. I mean, it just kind of shows how intolerable he really is. He's really not. He doesn't seem capable of really. You'd have thought that woman, has come at him and abused him and said all sorts to him. All she said was, just like nip it in the bud. We don't need you. We don't need you commenting on our election. You're a writer, for God's sake. And that's his response.
But it's not protecting. But Tom Baker, we'll mention Tom Baker's 91st birthday a little bit later on as a nice cheer up. But the point is, Tom Baker, I remember, and the other Doctor actors were told, don't smoke in front of kids, protect the brand. What about the image of Doctor Who? I remember in the 80s when Doctor Who was maybe on some news program like Nationwide, right, Cinnamon, way before you were on. And that you can't take the mick out of the Daleks, that the producers always made sure the brand was protected. And now you've got the showrunner. He's not even the producer. He's the showrunner. He's actually just shooting his mouth off. Now, he's allowed an opinion in private, of course, like we all are. But I don't want my Doctor Who program made toxic. And this is one thing you said to me last night when we were talking about doing this show. You were saying how it's all gone so toxic. It starts from the top, doesn't it, Cinnamon? I mean, we need him to just get on with some good stories and pipe down, and don't put Doctor Who in the way of any fire.
Yeah, going back to your job was, as someone who was put in a position of care, you had a responsibility to lots of people. And, if you went into your classroom and just started putting little signs here and there and little messages here and there, and, speaking to when you were teaching your class, encouraging them in, you should really think that this is what I believe, and I want you to go, you wouldn't do that. And it's just, end of the day, Russell, you of course you're entitled to an opinion, everyone is, but when it sort of bleeds into the show, which it has, and there's no point in denying it, it's always been there. Yes, this tired, it's incredibly tired, this tired old argument. And Doctor Who's always been. Doctor Who's always had politics in it. It's never been woke. There's a stark difference between being progressive and woke.
But it's been quite established. I mean, you go back to everybody's looking forward to season 7 Blu-ray, but the third Doctor was quite establishment. He talks about Tubby Rowlands. I don't know. It just makes me laugh sometimes. Anyways,
well, isn't he like the authoritative I don't know how you say it, the unauthoritative authoritarian? Like it is a contradiction. Like third Doctor will have a go at someone for wanting to put England first, like he did in one scene. But then he'll be quick to tell Joe to get him a cup of tea and some sandwiches for the boys, for Sergeant Benton, and Mike Yates and all that. It was kind of like that. It kind of worked the contradiction, but that's just the Doctor being the Doctor, I guess.
So it's good to see Sticks. I never. You must love this because I never say it right. Sticks Boy 73. It's funny how politics can polarize a conversation or relationship. Personal and professional opinions need to be separate. As you just said, I was in the public service. You just need to. Well, it's quite right. You're supposed to be separate. It's a bit like kids shouldn't know what goes on in the bedroom with their parent. Remember that moment you dreaded it when you found out. You thought, "Whoa." There's things that are separate. And I don't think I need to know what the showrunner thinks all day and all night. I just want a good show. So I agree with you. We should be able to keep them separate. And actually, if RTD was clever, he could just integrate some political messages subtly into the show, but not with a sledgehammer.
Which he used to do, and then for some reason now it has to be he has to make it obvious that this is what he thinks, and he has to he has to really make sure you know what his opinions are. Like, and it always used to be. It was sort of, there was messages in the first year. I'm not going to even say the words never, but again, it was subtle and it was done to serve the story. You could have a really good political thriller. You could have the Doctor land on an alien planet where there's a faction between the rich and the poor, and you could have a sort of message about the class divide, but you could do it in a really interesting sci-fi way, not just point the finger and say, "Oh, you're rich," and we need socialism and all this. And give a lecture about how babies are being left on their own because the planet doesn't want them.
Yeah.
All that.
So let's park RTD for a second. He'll be back in our show today, don't worry. But I was talking about how Doctor Who at the moment seems to be, if you're trying to look forward in 2025 to new Doctor Who, season 7 Doctor Who, spin-off Doctor Who with the Sea Devil, if you're just looking forward to something, you just need a lot of this political debate to tone down. The trouble is, Doctor Who's also caught in the crossfire, as my thumbnail says, in a different way. And Neil Gaiman. And I'm mentioning this not because I want to pour over details, but Neil Gaiman wrote 2 Doctor Who stories, as we know. At some points, they were mooted they'd love him as a showrunner. Remember, some fans really loved his style of sci-fi. So the Sandman author, Neil Gaiman, denies sexual assault allegations detailed in a New York Magazine article. I've heard bits. It's quite sordid. I'm not going there in this thread. But the point is, Doctor Who's in the crossfire. And what I mean by that is, since there's all these arguments, and we've been there before with Kevin Spacey had allegations, Epstein, Weinstein, oh God, all of them. Now, as this fan said, and I often watch Ben Williams on Twitter, okay, and I'm not going to read everything out because I can't. Okay, I know I shouldn't go just what about my favourite thing, but seriously, BBC, get these off iPlayer now. This is only going to get worse. Now, taking the Doctor's wife and the Nightmare Silver off. They've taken Hugh Edwards off already, as you know, from a voiceover bit in Fear Her. I don't like this cancel culture element, but I also think I don't like Doctor Who being in such crossfire. What are your thoughts on where Doctor Who is regarding all this, Cinnamon? Do you think we should be taking stuff off iPlayer? Do you think we need to keep editing stuff?
Simple answer, no. I'm really glad you put that screenshot of this post up, because I was literally going to talk about that very same thing, and I was going to leave the name out of it, but since you've obviously put it up, and it's out there anyway, everyone can see it, even though he's deactivated his account, I think now. It's hilarious because even he got called out for this. People are sick of this. It's called performative outrage. This. Oh, get them off iPlayer now. Honest to God. What? Do we just remove all of Doctor Who then? Do we remove all of season 1? Because, the idea of a very, very 900-year-old alien kissing a 19-year-old. Oh, that's predatory, isn't it? I need to remove that then. Or, Mickey's in season 1 a lot, so it means we'll get rid of him. John Barrowman, or actually both, the Mickey and Captain Jack feature in the early seasons very heavily. So let's just wipe away all the first 4 seasons. Go throughout all of Hollywood and all movies and TV shows. There's bad apples in everywhere. Do we just start, book burning like some sort of medieval times where we were going around burning books and things like that, things we didn't like? It's what is. First of all, Noel Clarke has been seemingly proved innocent. The Guardian wrote a rather disgusting piece on him. And that's since been proved to be nothing more than a sort of witch hunt started by a certain individual. Hugh Edwards, okay, I'll give you that one. John Barrowman, what for a slightly possibly inappropriate joke amongst a small cohort of co-workers who never really had a problem, and the one person who did raise concerns to Julie Gardner, it was nipped in the bud, reprimanded, dealt with years ago, and then all of a sudden brought up again. This performative outrage of get them off iPlayer. Why? Well, what, so we can ruin all the rest of everyone else who worked on those episodes? It wasn't just Neil Gaiman. It was the actors, the people who worked tirelessly for weeks and on end to make those episodes. What benefit does it do to remove those episodes? And of course, Ben Williams rightly got called out because he's more bothered about removing the episodes than the victims. I'm not here to say whether Neil's done it or not. We don't know. They're not privy to that information.
Well, we're not police. The point is, this is in the purvey of the police. I mean, we are Doctor Who fans, and I'm called the Sense Sphere, and it's for sense of perspective, sense of humor, common sense. And there is an element when you go, look, I personally think we're all big enough in life that things don't need cancelling. I mean, if you were watching a documentary on the Second World War, they would show you Hitler. They would. And quite rightly, because we have to learn, as I've got here from Reese Roder, you can't learn from history if you delete it. Now, I used to teach history as well. Yeah, exactly.
If you never make a mistake, how can you grow as a person? If I remember when I was in school, we had a thing on the door that had the word fail in it, but it was an acronym. It used the word fail and said an acronym it stood for first attempt in learning. How can you ever improve as a person if everything's done so right and you erase everything? I just don't see the absolute point in removing the episode. What does that do?
Well, I don't see the point.
Victims look at that and say, "Oh, thank you, Russell, for removing that episode. I feel much better."
Well, the other thing is, because it's McCarthyism in America in the 1950s. It's the Puritans again. If you look at what Sticks Boy 73 says, these episodes have nothing to do with his allegations.
Exactly.
Agreed. Exactly.
It was made like 10 years ago, 15 or 14, 2011 that was the Doctor's wife. Exactly. It was, and I like Jeepers Creepers. Now the director, I think it was the director, is an absolutely deplorable, disgusting human being. I won't even say what he's done, but as awful as a person he is, that doesn't discredit the movie. That doesn't mean you can't watch the movie because it's a bad movie now. Okay, it slightly tarnishes it with the representation because he's connected to it. But at the end of the day, there was other people who worked on that movie. There was other people that contributed to it. And same with this episode. You've got Matt Smith there. You've got, I can't remember, I don't know the actress's name, but Astrid, I think. Was it? No, it wasn't Astrid.
She's a good, yeah, she's been in Gentleman Jack and everything. She's a good actress.
And you've got Warwick Davis there as well in Nightmare and Sylvie. These episodes, people worked on those episodes tirelessly, for weeks and weeks on end. It takes quite a long time to make a season of Doctor Who, or at least it did when you made it longer.
And so I'll bring in the thread for a moment here, because obviously it has got us all charged up, because I think you have to draw a line in the sand somewhere. And yes, why don't we do it with Doctor Who? Which is, our showrunners over fighting his cases with politics and RTD cannot control who's president of America. So why doesn't he just pipe down and get on with just making a good show? The other thing is the controversies are kind of pulling Doctor Who into the headlines. Only if we let them, in the way that, yes, as Sticksbox says, it's got nothing to do with Doctor Who. The censorship shouldn't mean that person, if they've ended up doing wrong or even being criminal, every program they're touched has to come off. Every painting in the Louvre and in London, if the person was not of a 2025 mindset, should they be cancelled? You know what they're like with trigger warnings of the 1970s and 80s TV. Are we really going down this road of saying censor that? If the Mona Lisa, we find out that Leonardo wasn't a decent person, do we have to kind of cancel the Mona Lisa? It gets silly. Anyway, Graham Dawson, RTD is worried about Trump. RTD is finished, and he knows it. He's certainly not on the zeitgeist, is he? I showed on my Sunday show, he had a quotation when he said, look at Kamala Harris. Look how well Kamala Harris is doing. Well, that didn't land well. Anyway, I do not give a damn at the moment. I'm enjoying the Avengers. And, well, we'll do talking television, Graham. Join us on that. Me and Boomer Doug. We'll have the Avengers on. Don't you worry. Lily Shambles here. Neil Gaiman, Noel Clarke, John Barrowman, Hugh Edwards, plus probably more. We don't know. Yet there are a minority of the people who work there. Agreed. Why should everyone else suffer? And, I have to say Reese Roder's right. I really don't think just because somebody's done something vile, evil, I'm thinking of the really bad people in life who've been on top of the pops and that. I still wouldn't edit I think we should see bad people as well as good people, and we make the judgment. Your parents have a chat with you saying, God, he was really bad. And you do it that way. I don't think you should go retrospectively ruining every program in history just to make everybody feel piously better. New Who hater. Um, New Who is a time-turd stain. It's toxic. By any chance, New Who hater, have you watched our Tales of the Turdis with the puppets? Because we try and take the mick. John Steed, RTD has restraints in his first run now. Yeah, I agree. I think. What do you think, Cinnamon? That RTD 2005 to 10 was trying to please and was nervous that Doctor Who would land, and he was up against Ant Deck's takeaway and all the rest of it, and he was nervous, and he played it a bit safer. Now he thinks he's it.
It wasn't even just that it was safe; it was that it was done right. You know, I mean, your fans at the time might not have. You know, it was slightly different Doctor Who. You know, if you were brought up in the classic era, 2005 era is quite different in some ways. So I can imagine why it wasn't everyone's cup of tea. You know, there was just some people who just didn't like it, just full stop. But like, it was just in some ways RTD is a different beast, but then in some ways he's the same, because we're hearing from sources that the same sort of shenanigans that were going on around behind set. You know, we hear it from Christopher Eccleston's own mouth. You know, the same things that were kind of happening then. Do you know what some of the same things are happening now? We hear little tidbits about issues behind scene, and you think, wow, 20 years later, and there's still issues. Oh, and with this production team, with the very same people, this little click that is still here. So in some ways they're different, but in a lot of ways it's still the same. And unfortunately, it's not the good bits that should be the same, not the talent or the mindset, because like I've said before, multiple times. In 2005, his ambition in his mindset was to establish Doctor Who.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't just a silly show from bygone year, Doctor Who. Nobody watches that anymore. You know, it was some show that was on years ago. No, he brought it back, and he brought it back with a bang. It looked great. I mean, I was watching it the other day. I was watching Midnight with my sister, and the episode again. Not just because it's one of my favorite episodes, but it really holds up. You know, you look at all the effects. Like now, and I remember Rabbi might have made a point about this, you know, that all these fancy, you know, effects that they've got and how pretty it looks. Doctor Who 10 years ago looked just as fine. You know, we didn't, you know, it's nice, but it's like...
Yeah, we didn't, yeah.
It's making it look prettier. The quality and the focus on the art isn't as what it used to be. And it's lost its seriousness. It's no longer taking itself seriously in all sense of that word. It's a different beast. It's more bothered, instead of trying to recapture an audience, instead of trying to make Doctor Who fit for the new 21st century and bring it back in a modern way. Now that it's done that, now it's more bothered about being on streaming service, and now it wants to chase all the Disney shows, Star Wars spin-offs, and it wants to be like Stranger Things. It doesn't want to be like Doctor Who and, you know, be its own thing. It has to be like everyone else, and it wants to chase other trends, and, you know, it won't be its own thing. I don't like that aspect of it.
And as I will keep reminding people new to this, we did a few Bigenerates before, and it's been sporadic, and we're going to keep trying to do this because you've got Generation X and Generation Y, Whovians, and we keep wanting to have a fiery debate, and we keep agreeing, which tells you quite a few things. Anyway, Tim Kins here. I'm of mixed feelings. When it's the writer who goes wrong, the art made is their creation. What happens in the episodes is down to them. It's not like an actor or costume maker going wrong. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I mean, you've got to feel comfortable, but I think being an adult and mature and civilized in society is we know there's warts and all. And as long as we discuss them and call them out, criticize, praise, I think that makes a better society. And you know, on my channel, I'm obsessed with debate of different people, different views, and mutual respect. And it's a TV program, or it's a painting, or it's a piece of art. And if the person ended up being proven to be a rotter, I personally think we should separate the two because the art is the art. It's part of culture. Now, the thing I'm going to say and see what everybody in the thread says, shoot me down or say if you agree with us, because it's a funny one, this, isn't it? Because it affects Doctor Who and it affects everything. I'm a creature of the 70s, so I watched It's a Knockout, Je suis Frontier, and there's a certain presenter on there whose laugh I loved as a kid. I remember having my 4 quarters of sweets, and we'd sit there on a Friday night, Cinnamon, and we'd watch Britain balls it up again against all the other European countries. But it was a great laugh, and he had a really infectious laugh, this presenter. But now he's like, woo. So that'll never be shown on TV. So my childhood's getting erased here. You know, a certain Top of the Pops presenter who also had a show before Doctor Who on Saturday night, and that will be edited and never shown again. And loads of kids loved the show. They didn't love him. They loved the show. So part of our childhood, Cinnamon, I'm going to sound like Peter Davison in The Five Doctors. You know, at the beginning when he gets that angst and he goes, parts of my past have been taken away. And I feel like my childhood is being ripped apart by all these censors who say, nope, and you can't have that comedy, and the Taint Half Hot Mum's a bad comedy, and oh, for God's sake. Hopefully
chunks of your past have been taken away like icebergs or whatever the quote was.
Yes,
you feel whole again, or you disappear and wither away. But just on that comment that you just put up there, the difference I would say is that those episodes, it's not Neil Gaiman's personal memoir. It's not his obituary. It's not his autobiography. It's not all about him. If you didn't know any better and I said, no, those episodes weren't written by Neil, they were written by Toby Whithouse, would you notice the difference? Not really. He only wrote a couple of episodes. It's not like RTD or Moffat where they might have a certain style. Like Boom felt like a very, very Moffat episode. It felt like a sort of old script from series 10 that was thrown out. But like, again, yes, it's from his mind, and I do get the point. It's from his mind. It's his creation. It wasn't just like a wobbly set that fell over. It wasn't an accident. He actually did write it. Yes, I do grant that. But it wasn't. Again, it's not. He's not writing about himself. It's not writing about his life. He's writing a Doctor Who episode. So you're watching that episode, and like, what about that episode screams Neil Gaiman? Apart, the only bit about that really connects him is just the title card at the beginning. When the theme tune plays and the credits roll and it says written by Neil Gaiman, that's just there to say that for legal reasons, this story is written by him. That's all there is. Apart from that, once that's gone, you can just immerse in the story. Okay, people are different. It's okay to have mixed feelings, but that's how I would look at it when I watch a story that I know might have a certain actor in it I don't like, or again, when you talk there about chunks,
but I think
being taken
Cinnamon.
Away from,
But Cinnamon, what I find interesting is, when we talk about all these bad people and they might have made art and whether we should separate it, but when we go back to RTD, it's a bit different, I think, which is when you know somebody's very strong politics, you may find some people choose not to watch the show because of it being so heavy. I'm not going to be lectured to, so they avoid the program. So actually, you could have some terrible things done by people who make the show over the years, but you want the show not to be censored. But when you know somebody's aggressive politic platforming, you think, oh, I'm not going to tune in for this. And Raymond Williams here says, I love the fact that RTD is losing it over Trump. His disbelief that the Americans prefer common sense to the woke madness. He will be completely bamboozled. It was a bit like the inauguration, I have to say, Raymond, when I was watching it, and I did my politics show on Monday night. When you saw everybody standing up every time Trump said something, and you saw the Democrats sat there and Kamala Harris, RTD's favorite person, it's summing up what you're saying, Raymond, which is, look, whatever your politics are, you could be Democrat, you could be Republican, you could be somewhere in the middle. If your Doctor Who show is so kind of ingrained in attacking capitalism, attacking Trump-type people like in Kablam, in the end, people will turn off the show if they're Republican or on the right. And therefore, it poisons the show. Never mind censorship of somebody played around in the background and they can't be on again, or somebody in their private life was bad. What do you think, Cinnamon? What do you think in the thread, everybody? I almost think there's a difference. If you really know somebody's politics who makes the show and you don't like their politics, do you tune in?
Going back to the first RTD1 era, like I said, there was elements there. Again, like I said, I strongly believe there's a difference between naturally progressive and woke. I would say woke. You know, people try and catch you out and say, "Oh, what does woke mean?" Or you don't know it. It's just, you know, I would define it as, well, an extreme heightened awareness or belief of social injustices. It's this belief that there's so much wrong in the world and everything's just so bad, and I've got to fix it all, and I've got to make sure you know about it, and I've got to tell you about it. Half the time, I know that's, and then you can set up the definition, but Google will give you a rather left-wing definition of it. Show you if it has different people, they'll give you theirs. But that's usually what it boils down to. You know, and I think a lot of the time it's looking for problems rather than actually being there.
Well, the other thing is the argument.
The Kamala Harris, she had when she brought. I did see a TikTok video. I don't use TikTok, by the way. You would think it would be Generation Z. You know, I think I'll be all over it, but I don't.
Yeah.
I have one, but I only watch it if someone sends me the old video, but I don't use it. But I did see one video of a Kamala Harris rally, and she thought it would be a good idea to bring Beyonce on because that will get people going. Yes. And Beyonce came on, and they thought it was going to be a concert. They thought it was going to be this. Oh, thought they were going to get a big, nice, free concert. And she spoke for about 2 minutes, basically endorsing her. Then she went away, and then like people in the crowd started leaving. Like, of course, the cameras won't show it, but the people who were actually there were filming it, and you could see in their droves people were leaving. And then, you know, you look at, you know, whether you like the bloke or not, you can look at how popular Trump's rallies can be, and how people are generally there for him. You know, he doesn't rely on celebrity.
Well, I mean,
people might say Musk, but you know, in the same fashion that she did.
Well, let's bring it to Doctor Who a little bit as well, because we are a Doctor Who channel. I will do politics separately, and it does blur. Now, Bald Eagle's got an interesting point here, which I had heard about. I'm sure you have, Cinnamon, and the thread. I was nearly going to use it in one of my shows, like the Detox on Friday. So, can everybody just join in and tell me what they know? Because this is interesting. I was at a Doctor Who convention at the weekend, and Peter Purvis, Stephen Taylor, asked the audience of about 400 people whether they liked the current show, and the whole audience went, no. Now, you see, it does get interesting, because you go on Twitter, I'll get a troll or two, and this is another point you had about fandom, isn't it, Cinnamon? Because, like I said, I contacted you last night and said, do you want to do a show? And you said, it's just the way fandom is at the moment and all the rest of it. I find as the deniers that there's something wrong with the program. It might have ratings they like. I'm not going to get into that today, but there's something wrong. Nobody's talking about it. People joke about it and going, oh, that they had that silly thing on. It's not what it was in 2005, 6, 7, 8. So have you heard anything, Cinnamon, or anybody in the thread about, I heard that there was a few on the stage, and actually it was quite clear that people are not liking this era at all. I mean, I don't know. Have you heard anything?
I've not heard about this. I've not heard about Peter Purvis and this. I mean, it's really like, I mean, it's got to be awkward though, isn't it? When like, I mean, I sort of like wish the more, and I say I don't mean straight. I don't mean, oh no, that's not a dig to Peter, but you know, the more mainstream. You know, I've been to a Comic Con in Scarborough where the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Doctor and Sophie Aldred and the actress of Perry, I don't know why it's escaping me mind. Nicola Bryant, you know, all the actors, a lot of the doctors and their companions. If they asked a question like that, and the audience went, "Ooh, that would," I don't know if that would make my day or like shock me, because you know it's. I mean, what does that say? I mean, again, it speaks about, you know, what you see on Twitter, you think is everyone's opinion. You know, a lot of people maybe your age probably aren't using. You know, my dad doesn't use Twitter or X. Right?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
There's a lot of, I think, when we talk about things like the silent majority, you got to remember there's a lot of fandom out there that doesn't use social media.
No.
So, and you know, it's primarily tailored. There's going to be a lot of people my age, and a lot of people my age are of a certain belief and are of a certain part of the fandom. So when you hear, you know, when the show tailors and gets its, you know, the show shouldn't try and get its gauge from Twitter, because there's a bigger world than that.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, isn't it? Because, you know, you've just had the inauguration of a president, and it seemed to me whatever side you're on, the truth is, I think one side got a shock that what they were doing wasn't getting this amazing reaction that they thought it would. And you look at Doctor Who, and then I believe it because I've heard it from different sources that Peter Purvis, he was there with Sylvester McCoy and a few other people on stage. And if I'm fascinated that a room full, you see, when they did the Doctor Who proms before Christmas, everybody was saying they were going up to see RTD, shaking his hand, and he was so popular. That was the feedback. Now I believe that because I think people can not even. I was there. Remember when people were signing autographs with Colin Baker and everybody else? You know, when somebody says, my favorite Doctor is, let's make one up. I'm the Patrick Troughton. Patrick Troughton's my favorite Doctor, but they go and see Colin Baker to get an autograph. Yeah, that's how you know, fans work. So just because you shake RTD's hand at the Albert Hall does not mean you approve of what he's doing. It's a bit like
and it's like, you know, if I was to see Russell T Davies, I would go up to him and ask him for a picture. And people might say, "Oh, you're a bit of a hypocrite because you'll come on here and criticize them, and then the next thing you know, you'll be getting a picture of them." And I can see why people would say that. But at the end of the day, I am a fan, and although I strongly disagree with a lot of what he says nowadays, at the end of the day, he did make my childhood happy, even though it's a little bit like you said, but the Fifth Doctor taking a bit of your childhood, it's a little bit that has been, you know, it does hurt a little bit when you're seeing the Tenants come out and, you know, you put up a screenshot there of what RTD's put. You should have seen what Georgia put on her Instagram. So I'm a little bit, you know, dismayed when I see them say things. I think, well, you know, but then I go back to the separating the artist from the art from the artist. David Tennant isn't the 10th Doctor. Well, he's the 10th Doctor, but he's not actually a Time Lord. You know, he is a man like the rest of us. David Tennant and his characters are a different thing. You know, and when people say don't meet your heroes, I don't particularly subscribe to that. I think you should meet them, but I think be aware. And obviously, they're not actually the same character that they play. They are a different person. It does hurt a little bit when, you know, you do see people that you grew up watching become so divisive and they're so alienated from you, and you're like, wow, how? Why are you like this?
It's interesting. It's interesting because part of my Sunday show, to be honest, was about the fact that. And I kind of fired it up with a tasty title, but, you know, I'm not stupid. That's how you do it. Which, if I just show you this for a second, and I'll take that quote off from Raymond Williams, which is a good one, but I'll just take it off for a second so I can show you. The point I was trying to make, if you can see on the right there, was that if you really sit down and listen to the criticisms, the interviews, the little comments over the years from Stephen Moffat, from RTD, and from Chris Chibnall, they say they're Doctor Who fans, but they sound as though they hate the show. Stephen Moffat has slagged off John Pertwee, he slagged off Tom Baker, he slagged off William Hartnell. And, you know, you think, well, okay, then, you're up for criticism. So, you know, like, if there was Twitter then, people would say you are deniers, you are nasty people, you are trolls, go and find another program. Okay, then. Well, why didn't they clear off and make their own blooming program instead then? So I just want the same logical rules. So basically, they're allowed to slag off Classic Who. And as Raymond Williams was, and I'll put it back up now, Raymond Williams was saying that Peter Davison can happily tell us the flaws in his Fifth Doctor era. Yeah. Common sense of perspective. You know, he wasn't making War and Peace. He understands that. And I like that. There's a humility there. And RTD, when he sells Doctor Who, never says there's a blemish. And it's like, get real. Space Babies is one of the best things you've ever made. He was advertising Rogue Cinnamon as an amazing show. Wait till you see it. Well, we saw it. And, you know, some people were vomiting. Some people were going, what the hell? You know, I think humility needs to appear in our friend RTD at the moment. Now, we've mentioned that controversy, and you can see how it causes people to get so angry. I mean, you know, so Neil Gaiman, should he be taken off or not? And as you can see, there's the big argument. This might be an overreaction. You know, I thought it was an overreaction taking Hugh Edwards off the voiceover. It was only a voiceover, for God's sake. Are they going to take him off the Queen's funeral commentary?
I mean, the thing with the Hugh Edwards, I could be completely wrong, but I don't know if they had to, because I don't know what the difference is, because Hugh Edwards was a direct like BBC employee, wasn't he? Whereas actors, although they might work for a BBC show, they're not like, I don't know. Is there any difference there between an actor that works on a TV show versus someone who's like a news presenter?
Cinnamon, isn't this the very, very nature of virtue signaling? We have taken Hugh Edwards off the voiceover, which was inconsequential on an inconsequential dud of a story. Who cares? Who cares? And it doesn't change the story.
It's a bit of a needless change, to be honest, because I don't believe they've still put it back up on iPlayer. You know, I can't imagine if you know, I don't know what they're doing with it, but they've took it off iPlayer. It doesn't seem there's any rush to put it back on. You know, like I said, you know, are we just going to remove the why don't we just remove all of, you know, like I said, all of the RTD era, because you've got hundreds and hundreds of old alien kissing a 19-year-old, and that doesn't. Well, that's a bit wrong, isn't it? Let's get that episode off. Let's get all the Mickey episodes, get all the Captain Jack episodes off. Actually, why don't we get the episodes of when Martha's mother and Jackie slaps the doctor, because that's abuse, and you know we seem to find it funny how we joke about the men getting slapped. You know, they do that gag a few times, even in the.
Well, why don't we? And this is what, and this is the slippery slope. They do it with trigger warnings for the 70s. I notice there's no trigger warnings if you watch the Star Beast. There's no trigger warnings if you watch Rogue. There's no trigger because it's acceptable, they think. But it won't be for forever. People will come back and argue. Now, I'm just putting Kevin Spacey up there as an example, which is, I don't approve of cancel culture. I know the Americans found the McCarthyist era was vile. The Crucible, written by Arthur Miller, really went to town on that, the Puritan way of doing things. We don't want to go back to that. We're all big enough, mature enough to say that person wasn't perfect, but I actually kind of like their art. I think you can say two things at once. Now, in Kevin Spacey's case, I'll make it very clear. All those rumors, and he's innocent. You know, hello. And he was erased from, was it House of Cards? He was erased. And
wasn't this like, well, I suppose there's always been some element of cancel, but like this is sort of like in my time, this is like the first time with him. I don't know too much about him, but this is like the first time I ever heard of someone completely sort of being cancelled. You know, this is the first time I ever saw someone being cancelled, and you know, because it was big, and he's a big actor in the States, and it was like everyone knew about it. It was just, you know, and it went on for a long, long time, and I mean, even now we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, even though he may be innocent now, what that's damage done to his career. Because even if he is innocent, is there going to be a big rush for people to want him in their films? And there'll be a large hole in his CV, and there'll be a lot of time where he wasn't in projects.
Well, let's have a look at another element where my thumbnail, my advert is Doctor Who in the Crossfire, and so I'm razor sharp with this one. So moving on, as you know, at the moment, everybody in America is aware of the executive orders from President Trump, the attack on DEI, for example, and so. In America, Disney and everybody are dumping DEI so fast, you can tell they didn't believe in it. And now you think, so where does that leave Doctor Who? Because we're going down this road of, look at us. Russell Davies is a mentor for the Bad Wolf Writers Program. I mean, he's a mentor.
Very diverse.
Yes, it's very diverse. Women are the future. And but anyway,
so many.
Yeah, you've got that. And so, yeah, he's a mentor on the writers program. But on top of that, we heard that in season 2, there's going to be a certain writer. Now, I'm very aware of how you should talk about things, but let's first of all give it the big segment here, because it kind of bleeds into, has season 2 got promise? Knowing that DEI is getting dumped in America, that things are changing fast, that people are now finding their voice again. So let's just do the quick segment just to kind of get it tasty.
98, 97, 96, 95, 94, 97.
Yes, make sure you do subscribe, please. We're trying our best. I sometimes sleep. But yeah, it said season 2, episode 5 has been written by a Nigerian poet and playwright. This is the episode directed by Michaela McPherson, and the cast are predominantly people of colour. Now, just like Dot and Bubble was deliberately people of a white colour, I suppose you can do that. That's not an issue. I'm not going there on that one. There he is. I don't know much about him, if anything, to be quite honest. And I'm an English teacher, as you know. But knowing that Cinnamon, when we had 2 new writers to Doctor Who last season, it went so well with Rogue. I wasn't aware they really knew. I mean, what a great science fiction concept that was. Cosplay. And have a rogue villain who the Doctor has the hots for. Please tell me, did they watch all Doctor Who? Had they done their research? I mean, I really don't know anything about this person, and that's just the truth. And I'm not making a judgment either way, because I think some people can shout out DEI, and it can mean you're racist. I have to say, but if you say that's a DEI casting, how do you know? Got to be careful. But
yeah, a lot of people said that about shooting. I never quite, you know, I don't know. You know, maybe, possibly, but you know, I'm going to go with, you know, what I don't believe everything I hear, obviously, but I know they generally think he was the best person for the role. He probably might have been. I don't know. You know, I don't doubt that. I mean, the thing on that image there that I do take away is that it said he's a poet and a playwright. So has he got much TV writing drama? Because the fact that it's all black cast, that's not even on my mind at the minute. You know. It depends where the story is set. I always remember the interview. They did like a quick Q&A thing, and they asked you if you could choose where a story would be, where would you do it? And he said like Nigeria with Orisha gods, I think it was. Now that I wouldn't mind that. You know, I don't mind an episode where the majority of the cast is black, because it might be. I don't know where this episode is set. This episode might be set on a planet where it does have a lot of black people or something like that. That's not the issue. My actual issue with this is. Should he be writing for Doctor? Is a poet? A writer poem? You know, has he got much TV writing drama? Does he have too much drama?
You can be good at different things. Like I remember, I love Clive James. Lamented Clive James. He was a great TV critic, writer, and poet. Shakespeare was a poet and a playwright, so you can do it. So I don't call it out. I just don't know. Now, that's all I'm saying. But.
I just say that because, you know, we had it with a little bit of series 11 where of course, if you're going to have to write about Rosa, then you couldn't have a right person write about a story about Rosa Parks, you know, and it had to be someone who's being academic of that history, or someone who comes from ITV and writes a certain type of genre. Then suddenly, you know, I feel like they struggle with the sci-fi elements and they focus more. My only slight worry is that we're worried that when we set this episode, I'm not going to make too many judgments now because we've not seen anything about it. But I feel that if he's going to, you know, I don't know if he's probably born in this country. I don't know if he's not born in this country. But I feel like there might be a part where it might lean into perhaps his family's background, or lean into his family's history, or make it about something else, about how oppressed these people are. Or things of that nature, and I think it'll ruin the sci-fi element, which is what it's a Doctor Who episode at the end of the day.
I'm trying to counterbalance that Dot and Bubble was deliberately all white for a reason that he wanted. So if he's going to have a deliberately mostly all black cast, there'll be another reason, which I think we can both buy into. But I'm
all for it.
Yeah.
I don't mind. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me.
What I wanted to get into in the discussion is you and a lot of people. I've never used the phrase because I don't know much about it, but you know, the Fitzroy Brigade everyone talks about, you know, that Moffat, Chibnall, and I mean, this is all part of that. But at some point, if we argue that it's a boys' club, Doctor Who at the moment, that we need new blood, we need fresh writers. And so now he's doing fresh writers, we need to embrace it, which I know we do. The thing is, I'm making that other point, which is new blood has to know what Doctor Who is, though, and new blood has to know what science fiction is. And Rogue was a Bridgerton light episode. It wasn't sci-fi. I mean, just because he had a big gun and a spaceship in the garden, and the Childer were kind of monsters, but they didn't want to take over the world. They just wanted to cosplay. They were like a Slytherin without the fart. I mean, what was the point? It wasn't really sci-fi. It was, let's take the mick out of a historical period with a bit of a monster. It's Doctor Who light. So when we see this for season 2 so far, this is where we stand. Now, he said he wants fresh blood and new things, and you can see a few new titles here. So you were saying, Cinnamon, you were getting, you want to talk about season 2. So here I'm gladly delivering. You've got Joy to the World we've just had. I can ask you about that in a moment because I haven't talked to you since. The Robot Revolution. I mean, robots of death. Bring it on. I'm happy to have robots.
It's a very good. I do have to say, I do like the titles of these. Well, we don't know them all yet, but these titles do sound more Doctor Who-y than Space Babies. The Robot Revolution. The Savages. There's something. It's a very Doctor Who title, that isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel anyway.
I mean, looks sounds like a planet to me, and being the sensory and the sensorites, I feel as though we could be 5 miles deep. Sounds as though we could be linking up with the spin-off from Doctor Who. There's going to be a link up at some point with Doctor Who's the war between the land and the sea, isn't it? That I've heard so many rumors about that. But the season 2 episode 7 is called The Control Room, and there's rumors about Daleks. There's rumors that at some point Shooty has to twerk in front of a Dalek. Well, the Control Room, I don't know, unless we go back to the Celestial Toy Maker, because there's going to have to be a point when we come back to the gods. So I don't know. It's interesting. But let's hope. The writers, it's interesting on how he's got a mixture of male and female, mixture of ethnicity. He's certainly got different fresh blood in. All I ask is, do they know science fiction and do they know Doctor Who? And as Boomer Doug says here, quite rightly, replace DEI with MEI, merit, excellence, and intelligence. I'm all for that. Hashtag it, Boomer Doug. Yeah, that's what I mean. It has to be about merit. Has to be. Now, we've all seen various photographs. I mean, does this type of robot excite you? If that's in the Robot Revolution, Cinnamon.
I mean, I know it's not complete, but it looks a bit. But I mean, it's a robot. It's a bit like. It reminds me of the ones. What was it? The dinosaurs in the space.
Yes.
And those 2 silly robots that the Doctor was talking to, and they were collecting things or something like that. It's all right. It's a robot costume. It's nothing too flash. I mean, again, I know it's not. You've not got the helmet on, but it's a robot. The robot, and
So I'm going to throw a lot of questions. Thread. I can cope with this. I'm going to ask Cinnamon, and I'm asking you at the same time. What you're looking forward to? What you're dreading? Is the robot one sounding like, yeah, I'm mad on robots of death, and we did the recent review, so I'd be inconsistent if I said I'm not looking forward to a robot story with the Doctor. What about this then, Cinnamon? Just for a second, because everybody's done streams on it, and I don't want to bog everybody down, but I just don't have your opinion. As a Generation Z, what was your overall view of Joy to the Worlds?
Good in moments. I thought Joy was rather bland and boring and a bit annoying and a bit pointless. She was the worst bit of the episode for me. I can't really Anita, the sort of the hotel receptionist. All the scenes with her. The best bit about the story for me was the sort of. I mean, it's a bit like not even really that Doctor Who. It's sort of like you think he was watching something else if you didn't know. My favorite part of the episode. It's basically all the scenes with Anita when he spends like a year with her. That was the most engaging bit. That was the best part of the episode.
I'm going to argue with you now. This is Generation Z and Generation X, the bi-generates. Let's just remind ourselves. And every time we finish these shows, we say we agreed. Right, here we go, Cinnamon. Can I just say to you, you enjoyed... I mean, Anita was fine as a character, but it wasn't Doctor Who. Did you see him with his sonic screwdriver and doing the magician's apprenticeship, sweeping the stairs as if it was Harry Potter? And you like that?
Well, I didn't. Well, not so much that bit. It was a bit like, what was it you see in Harry Potter when he's like just doing that and the teeth? He can't. He's so lazy. He won't even like swirl it himself and just grab the spoon. At that point, he may as well. What is the point of just doing all this and floating? He may just grab the spoon at that point. Yeah, that's a bit Harry Potter, like he's walked in Azkaban or something. And yeah, I don't know about that bit, but I did like the whole concept of him, with her. I just thought she was a more interesting
think?
character. Trev, the guy at the beginning, I thought he was more interesting than Joy. She was.
Now you know you're.
All she did was just get angry.
You know you're.
And then about her mother a little bit, and then that was it. I just didn't feel like she had much.
You know your Generation Z, and I know because I've taught Generation Z. Now, Generation Z are normally very sensitive to various things because of how they've been taught. So I'm going to ask you this question. Trev, the character, was patronized by the Doctor as if he was a bit dim, not very bright. Did you approve of that bit?
To be honest, I never really thought about that.
I'm going to do an assembly now.
Yeah, I never took that. That never really took away from me. Although he didn't seem to mind that he died, though. I will I felt this is what I meant because I liked Trev because I actually generally felt for him because all he wanted to do was try his best. He wanted to help the Doctor in what way he can, and he died not thinking that or feeling like he let him down. And that bit I actually thought, like that actually got me a little bit. Like, although he wasn't on screen for all that long, like he actually made me care about him because all he wanted to do was just do his best, and he died, and the Doctor didn't even know about it. So that bit, obviously, I was glad to see him come back a little bit later. But even when he did come back later as a hologram, the Doctor like, "Oh, you dead, are you? Oh well, can you go patch this?" It's like, "Oh, you moved on very quick." So this is what I mean. Trevor was in it for like 5 minutes, and I felt more about him and cared more about him than I did Joy. Like I say,
and I don't
like. There's that scene where it's played off a laugh.
Yeah.
But the scene where the Doctor's talking to the Silurian fella, and he's obviously been possessed, and like Joy keeps chirping in, and like, "Well, this is my hotel room. Am I in the way?" And like, I'm like, "Yeah, actually, you are." Can you like just shut up? Like,
go and talk to the fly. Go and talk to the fly.
She just got in the way of the episode. She didn't have much presence. She was possessed for half of it. And then she disappeared for like 20 minutes while the Doctor and Anita had their little chair night. And I thought I actually liked their chemistry. Yeah. The Doctor and Anita got on far better than he did with Joy.
I know if it was a soap opera or a little drama, I would have liked it. But because it was Doctor Who, I was thinking, why am I watching Doctor Who playing chess? Why am I watching Doctor Who play Ludo? What is going on here? You know, there's everything in the world to fight, and he's playing snakes and ladders with somebody in a cheap hotel. Do you know what I worked out, Cinnamon? And I haven't seen any stream discuss this, right? A ready thread? My conclusion... Here we go. That Sandringham Hotel, do you know why he stayed there that year in the story? Do you know why? I've worked it out. You ready? Did you notice that when she got out the taxi, Joy, and when she went in, there was a gay nightclub next door, wasn't there? And I think, you watch, going back, everybody, BBC iPlayer, look at when she walked. Oh, I twigged it. It says Sandringham Hotel, and right next to it is a big rainbow flag, rainbow colours and that, and there's a nightclub. I think he pretended he was helping Anita, but the Doctor every night was sneaking to the LGBT nightclub next door. So the whole story, Big Finish are going to be onto this. There'll be a new series of the LGBT.
Yeah, there'll be about like 12 new seasons. A bit like what is it? Tom Baker's on his 14th season now on Big. Yeah, there'll be a whole new universe, and like remember what was it? East Space.
Yeah.
Well, how about Pride Space? There'll be something like that. There'll be a whole new genre of storylines of the Doctor in this club and Daleks.
Well, maybe
on the
look. I'll be cheeky like for a second because we want to laugh as well. I saw these photographs. There's Shooty. I don't know what is he doing. I mean, what's he doing? I mean, I know it's a publicity shot, but it's a naked statue of a man, and he's bending over, and he's quite. It's like, what the hell's going on here? If those were two dogs, I'd think they were sniffing each other. But honestly,
same thing, though, isn't it? I mean, why can't you just take a normal photo for God's sake?
So everybody, this is Brendan's theory. Go and watch Joy to the World again, and I'll really ruin it for you. Watch Joy walking into the Sandringham Hotel. There's an LGBT nightclub next door, and I think this is one of the scenes you didn't see the Doctor doing. When once he wasn't helping Anita, and not playing snakes and ladders. He was sneaking next door. Aye.
The whole thing about the locked door and why there's always a locked door. That's because he was adding that behind it. And every night he has a little sniff and a little feel.
God, sorry.
The extra stroke his abs. It's abs.
Rogue will be furious. But when
because the very next story he was setting up that Ibrahim, I can't remember was it Ibrahim something?
Yeah,
the soldier.
Yeah.
He was checking him out, wasn't he?
Now, let's do some kind of quick ones here with the thread and with yourself. So, Cinnamon, you talked about season 2. Owen here on Twitter was saying, if the rumours are true, I can't wait for the fugitive Doctor's return. Where do you stand?
Why? Well, because she was, most of the time she was a hologram. Okay, she was better than Jodie, but this is what I don't get. Just because she was better than Jodie and had more screen presence and had a bit more authority and no nonsense attitude about her, doesn't mean like we should be bringing her back. I just why? Like you could do with it. You can have your big finish if you want to have it. Want to buy that? Have it. I don't feel like we should be. If they're going to do something with her, they need to figure out what it is, because I'm still grappling with it now. The whole time this child thing, it was pointless. Despite all the uproar and justifiable uproar, I might add, what was the point of it? Because it went through all this hullabaloo just to basically like, oh well, nothing. It never mattered anyway, because we don't know who she is and where she fits in. We don't know who the Doctor's origins are. The whole point of it was, open it up a bit more questions. Well, there's plenty of questions anyway. All we knew was he was from this planet. Didn't know what his child was upbringing was like. He had little, bits of dialogue maybe, or back at school, the master beat me in this qualification. I remember in the Terror of the Autons when the guys popped down, things like that. Little clues that you go, ooh, but like, I don't. What is the like? What? Okay, I've got no enthusiasm for her coming.
Don't you think? I personally think, and this is why I mentioned the DEI is dying in America under Trump's executive orders, and we'll be 4 or 5 years behind. RTD will be completely missing the politics, and our Doctor Who show might look old-fashioned, might look as though it's in the wrong place. Please focus on sci-fi, and we wouldn't get hurt. We would be immune.
Age well, doesn't it? You look at Series 11.
It's going to age badly.
It just aged badly. So, it really dates it.
But what I will make clear is Joe Martin can act. And Joe Martin's Doctor, yes, overshadowed the Jodie Doctor, which was a damn shame. I mean, that was a balls up by Chris Chibnall. But I really don't want this series of Doctor Who to keep harking to the past. Can we keep moving on? The Fugitive Doctor is confusing. It wasn't well written by Chris Chibnall. We don't know where she stands in the hierarchy of Doctor Who. Leave it alone. It's a balls up. Let's just keep moving and stop trying to add these extras. I think we just about got away with it with the War Doctor, but can we stop having these special doctors all the time, like the Curator, the War Doctor, the Fugitive Doctor? No, Doctor 1, Doctor 2, Doctor 3. Just stop it, because it works to that little niche of Doctor Who fans. The ones who say, "Oh, I think the Fugitive Doctor's between the second and the third." Rubbish.
It can't work. This is the problem. It's how does she have a TARDIS? She can't be pre-Hartnell because she has a TARDIS. And if she's the whole Series 6B thing, or she's a secret, or before the second Doctor regenerated into the third Doctor, they secretly sort of the celestial intelligence, the CIA or Gallifrey, they took the Doctor, kidnapped him, and wiped his memory and regenerated him into a secret incarnation, got him to do some missions, or got her to do some missions, then regenerated him into the third Doctor and wiped all his memories of being this fugitive Doctor. And if that was the case, it would ruin the regeneration limit. So then that would mean that the 10th Doctor was therefore the last.
Yeah,
it doesn't work. I can't find any other way.
Well, there's a few in the thread who are trying to help us, but actually, Cinnamon, with one word, you can help us with this next one. We'll go off topic for 1 second. Lily Shambles, where are you from, Lily? Totally off topic. Where's your accent from, Brendan, please? It sounds so familiar, but yet it's been many years since I lived up north. Now, me and Cinnamon are from the same place, which is, Cinnamon?
Middlesbrough.
Captain Cook came from Middlesbrough. He went and discovered, I know it's an argument, he went and explored, circumnavigated the world, Australia, New Zealand, Tahiti, blah, blah, blah. Captain James Cook. Gene Roddenberry liked him enough to have the Captain Kirk, James T. Kirk. Yeah, Middlesbrough. So anyway, just to answer that one for you. Now, I said that there was answers by the thread. Reese Roder, James says, Timeless Child needs to be erased. Oh gosh, cancel culture.
Or just ignored, to be honest, just ignored. You know, it's some people just sort of think, well, because it's, I mean, RTD wants to have his cake and eat it too. So he's opened up the canon, as he said it. So it's open to interpretation, just about. So I would say that, similar to the whole half-human thing, if we could just leave it alone and never mention it again, really, as much.
Yeah, just
But
about.
I don't think he probably will mention it as much times as he
Well,
can. I feel
Cinnamon,
ignore it. Fandom chooses what's canon anyway. So.
Cinnamon, you've got that good mind. That mine's older now. This is the Generation XZ thing. What was that? Peter Capaldi's story where the moon ended up being a spider's eggs or something. What was that one?
Kill the moon.
Kill the moon. Yeah. Can we forget Kill the Moon and forget Timeless Children? There you go. So Sadako24, good to see you. Before the Timeless Children, Jodie's era was bad but salvageable. After that, the franchise was nearly unsalvageable. So you can see people are saying, I mean, we're not into cancel culture. We're just saying, how the hell do we get out of this mess? John Steed, better than Jodie better than Gatwa, but all non-doctors. Capaldi was the last doctor. I know where people are saying 2017, that's the cut-off point. But Lily Shambles does say John Hurt was her favourite. I have to say it was a masterstroke. I can be inconsistent. I can be inconsistent in my argument, which is I don't want these intrusions, but that moment, is it in the name of the Doctor when he turned? Oh, wow.
Yeah, the John Hurt one is the exception. That one worked because, well, there's actually a logical explanation. Okay, it kind of ruins the whole, well, how we used to think, how, you know, we all used to think it went from Paul McGann to Christopher Eccleston. So it now therefore makes the 9th Doctor technically really the 10th, I suppose. But, you know, it fits. There was a logical conclusion. You know, there was reason why it happened. It works. But it's a one-trick thing. If you keep doing it and keep much sprouting, you know, new doctors are here or there and everywhere, it ruins it because, again, it dilutes. It just dilutes it if you've got them just sprouting up from, oh, well, the Doctor made this decision and he stepped on a butterfly and therefore he didn't die, so this new incarnation is now here. Yeah. And things like that. It's just, can we stop? Like, no more. We don't need another one after this. Stop with your little secret incarnations thrown in there everywhere.
But this is what I mean, and that was my argument on Sunday. Was partly do the new Who team hate Classic Who because they're so determined to change everything about Classic Who? If you love it, curate it, be a custodian of it, protect it. Raymond Williams. She's a stereotype, and Chibnall didn't realise that. This is Fugitive Doctor. A no-nonsense black woman that takes no nonsense from anyone. I know. Well, it's always interesting, isn't it? When people want to do representation, they can fall into traps. David Harding, Doctor Who, the Doctor being half human on his mother's side makes way more sense with regards to explaining why he spends so much time on Earth than the Timeless Children did, and that's been commonsensical of you. I know we don't like it, but it makes logical sense.
Well, actually, it's in fairness to it. Now that you say that, it would actually be easy to. I can't remember what it was, but I remember reading something, and it was actually a very good explanation for why the whole half-human thing, and looking into the Eye of Harmony and to open it. And I can't remember what it was now, but that's lower. That's small. Although it's a little gripe that I know a lot of people had, but it was one line of dialogue. It wasn't an entire storyline. Yeah. It was one line of dialogue mentioned once. It's a small level thing. It's a small bit of the continuity that was a little bit rumbly. Whereas the Timeless Child was Mount Vesuvius. It blew everything up.
Now, Cinnamon. Now, Cinnamon, get ready. Because I said I was going to ask you lots of questions about season 2 since you mentioned it. But I'm going to have alert. Everyone who watches my detox knows this. I think this might get toxic. So alert, trigger warning. because people are also saying, "Oh, I'm looking forward to Jinx Monsoon possibly coming back." Is this toxic?
Why? Why?
Well, because RTD's his friend. That's why.
Yeah, but Owen, my friend, what qualities do you actually see in that character?
I can sing.
I,
I'm a god.
I just don't get it. All power to you, Owen. I'm glad. I'm generally. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm glad that you liked it. I wish I did. It's a thing with the Geordie. No, I don't. I don't hate the fact that other people liked it. I might question it, but no, I wish I liked it just as much as you. I can't personally fathom why someone would be so excited for Maestro to come back. I don't like the individual. First off, massively so, in their comments. But even not even just the character, putting the person aside, just the character, just grated on me, unimaginably, and it really and the rest, the premise of the episode. I remember, I think I did the review. I remember I liked the sort of the premise, but the character just drained. It sucked so much energy at the room. But I think I remember saying duty. It takes a lot to out sort of, he's a very loud, very open voice, he's a very chaotic fruity personality, if that would make sense. So for him to be sort of minuscule in his own episode, because she just drains all that energy. It just.
So as Cinnamon's been given his measured response, what does everybody else think? I mean, honestly, I'm only asking, I'm asking for a friend. I personally, you saw my Devil's Card review. No, I didn't like a bit like Cinnamon saying, I found the whole setup and the look of it. Forget the blooming breaking the fourth wall and forget the song and dance routine. There's always a twist at the end. The thing that I found, that shot there is quite key to this, actually. It was that scene. You saw a TARDIS in the corner and it was shot as if it was a bit surreal. It was shot as if it was just in a warehouse or we're in space. Now, this is, I will lose friends here, but Star Trek The Next Generation, I struggled with Q. I hate this God imposition, this surreal character where you can't quite get hold of them. I hate it. And Jinx Monsoon's Maestro kind of fell into that kind of Q. I hated it. I just... Doctor Who is fantasy anyway. We've got to be very careful with Doctor Who. I mean, the hocus pocus about the TARDIS being bigger on the inside, the hocus pocus about various things. But most of the British and American public have bought into that dramatic conceit. But don't push it too far. Don't have a sledgehammer making a second TARDIS. Don't do this. And don't have a song and dance routine.
It just turns casuals off. I think a lot of people, like my sister, she's an avid fan. She's watched it growing up with me, and then when she watched it, but I would say she's rather casual. I think she enjoys the show, but she's casual. She watching this turned her off. It was just too much. My dad was the same. It's like you play. It almost thinks that like this niche audience that this is supposed to appeal to is the majority, and a lot of people are just going to look at this and think, "What was that?
Yeah,
what is it? It's just a turn. It's just as simple as that. If for some people they just don't get it, it's a turn off. For some people they just look at this and think, "Wow, no wonder Doctor Who is where it is."
I don't want Doctor Who meets RuPaul to be an episode type thing.
Right, just non-political people, just the average people, just look at this and think, wow, Doctor Who isn't what it used to be.
Doctor Who was always a jump. Everybody who's older than you, Cinnamon, in Britain, for example, will know that when we were embarrassed about it a bit at school, you just hope that Doctor Who didn't do a rubbish story where everybody would take the mick. Now, I'm glad I'm not a teenager now, because if I said I was a Doctor Who mad fan, I would really be embarrassed by some of these episodes because people would go, "Oh, you're into all this? Are you into, oh, no, I just like sci-fi. Leave me alone." And what about this one, Cinnamon? Because I know, you said season 2. Are you looking forward to this combo next year?
Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah. I don't. Obviously, I don't know much about this actress. Well, actually, we know a little bit from when she played the character Mundy Flynn in Boom.
Yeah.
I sort of root for her, I guess. She's I think she's
Very
from
good
Newcastle,
looking.
which is, they're both attractive. It's an attractive cast. You want, it's nothing wrong with having attractive people. That's apparently sacrilege these days. You're not allowed to find people attractive, especially women. I'm looking forward to seeing what she has to offer. I've got nothing negative to say about it. I hope that when you think about it, you think about. I hope what difference she makes to Shooty's character as well and his Doctor, because although maybe not much, but the Doctor was different with Rose than he was with Martha. Well, maybe Rose and Martha are a little bit similar, but the Doctor was different with Donna than he was with Rose, wasn't he? There's little subtle changes, maybe. I wonder what I'm saying is I wonder what difference she'll make to his Doctor if
Well, let's
at all,
hope.
really.
Well, let's hope RTD, Martha Jones was badly written, really, because Martha Jones, as the first black companion, he had her as unrequited love, fawning over the Doctor. And as you know, she's grown since, and she's a blooming good actress as well. I hope with Verada Sethu, he writes her a bit more Donna Noble-ish. She's an older woman. She's not 19, like you said. And so she can give lip back and she can be a little bit more feisty. You just hope. Although I have to say, can we all please focus on the Doctor being the main character and the Doctor being the hero and not crying and saying, "I need you."
Yeah, we were telling to that again, didn't we, about the whole, the Ruby taking the dominance of the storyline. It's like it's been quite a little, well, apart from the time as child, but
But she's still coming back, isn't she?
It's been a little while. It's been a little while, but yeah, for an episode or two. It's been a little while since we've maybe had a Doctor-centric. Can't we have a Doctor? The storyline something other.
Well, the Doctor does. I mean, we don't want to know that the Doctor's got a bunion on his foot. We don't want to know that the Doctor has an uncle who is not a Time Lord. We just want the Doctor to go on an adventure. That's what I mean by Doctor-centric.
Yeah, it needs to be grounded. It feels like it's been the past couple of years. It's been too universe, and you've got the flux, and then the time is everything's always massive. Can't we just go back to single adventures and things like that? Keep it grounded, which the original era used to be. I don't know. Do we know? I know they've announced it, but I can't remember her character's name.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's actually from Earth or not.
Does it begin with B? Is it Belinda or something? Belinda Chandra?
Possibly. I suppose that could be an alien name. I kind of like. I hope she's like, because when you watch the season 2 teaser, she was looking out of a window and it looked like, I don't know if it is Dalek ships, but it looked like there were ships flying around shooting. So I kind of hope she's like an alien or not from Earth, because it feels like we've got a lot of Earth companions. I know everyone says this and it's like it's an old thing.
Can I just say,
but it just
some interesting things here. Lily Shambles, have you told me where you are in Britain yet? I'm always fascinated, just fascinated. So you say, my birth mother watched the specials after being away from it, Doctor Who, for years and thought it was just okay, but didn't want to watch any Jinx, even though she has many gay friends. That's the point. Look, and hello, my situation. I don't have to keep saying it, I know, but I just because I'm gay, I don't want to watch RuPaul. I mean, and I'm a sci-fi fan. I like H.G. Wells. I like that sort of thing. I never saw the.
You like football?
Yeah, I never saw the episode where H.G. Wells, goes to a kind of LGBT nightclub or RuPaul. There was a drag show night. No, I like sci-fi concepts. I like Ray Bradbury's A Sound of Thunder, that sort of thing. I like Isaac Asimov. So Lily Shambles, like I said earlier, I want the real Doctor back, please. And I think you speak for an awful lot of people, Lily. John Steed, thank you again for following and supporting us. Doctor Who is now like a weird uncle or auntie. The family know about them, but does not wish to visit as they're embarrassing. That's how the fans feel. Yeah, that creepy uncle at the wedding, as Peter Kay used to talk about. New Who hater, who You are what you say on the tin, so to speak. Mind you, who am I to talk? Look at me on Sunday night. I'm starting to get a bit. RTD is a perfect match for soap writing. Yeah, look what he did to Why Don't You? He turned it into a soap. But you'd still need to keep an eye on him. Otherwise, before you know it, you'll have a certain scene. Well, they all do now in the soaps. Actually, New Who Hater. I mean, gosh, there's more gay characters in Emmerdale and everywhere else. I'm from Yorkshire. Middlesbrough's Yorkshire, really, isn't it, Cinnamon? I can't believe.
Not
Where's
Yorkshire.
this village where there's all these gay farmers? I can't believe it.
It's like with EastEnders. There seems to be like a habit of like all these straight characters suddenly having storylines where they were kind of closeted. They've done it a few times, but it's like they did it with Christian. Remember Christian and Saeed?
Yes.
That was like a big storyline, and like obviously Saeed was nearly married to a woman. He was going to sort of push his feelings down and try and ignore it, and then obviously he couldn't. And they did it once, and then they did it with Callum Highway. He was going to be engaged to Whitney, and then oh no, he secretly now likes men. Oh, but he's not bi. He's now just fully gay. It doesn't matter about the past, but the fact that he was attracted briefly for a woman, and then they did it again with recently. They had the first lesbian wedding. I think it was the first lesbian wedding on EastEnders between Suki and Eve. And Suki again, she was presumably straight. I mean, she literally stepped with Peter Beale.
I think this is where this is, and I'm trying to read it back to Doctor Who, but yeah, where I just want things to be respectful and authentic. This idea that 1 minute you're this and 1 minute that, this gender fluid thing isn't. I'm not buying into it, and I'm not buying into this sexuality fluidity. I know in some cases it can happen, and I know people can be in a marriage because they're closeted. That's a different scenario. However, now Lily Shambles has answered our question. Cinnamon, she's from Norton. So Norton Village, near North Tees Hospital. I was in there 2 years ago. Yeah, so know it well, Lily. Yes, Norton. My first school was covering that area. As Richard Brown says, God's own country. Of course, you all know how to creep around me now. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Hemsley, Scarborough, Whitby, Staithes, Leelome. Oh, some beautiful places.
I wish they should film some sort of episode or have a scene set in Whitby. I feel like Whitby is I think you could do a very good historical sort of story set in Whitby somehow. That would be like an idea I'd have if I wrote something.
They shouldn't have done Vampires of Venice. They should have done Vampires of Whitby.
Yeah, there's a few goths down there.
There's loads.
Just something like, imagine like Savages. I could imagine the Savages was like secretly filmed in Whitby. A pirate, you could have a pirate course, something like that. You don't have to call it Whitby. You could have it in a different name, but you could have it recognisable or something like that. I could just it's just a perfect location. Holy Island as well. I mean, they've got the new 28 years later. The North is a very good filming.
Very good. Look at Vera. Watch Vera. Right, Cinnamon. Next one. I'm still trying to see where you're looking forward to. Not Fugitive Doctor. Not Jinx Monsoon. I don't know what you're looking for. Right, next one. Mrs. Flood. Are you looking forward to this?
Do you know what? I've just completely forgotten that this is a thing. Like, I don't think many people are that engaged.
I'm here to help. Yeah.
It's like we forgot about it. Like, didn't we? If we're being honest, like, who actually did? Like, did many people have? Oh yeah, that was the thing. Oh yeah, she's still here. Like, okay, I'll watch it. Obviously, I'll see what happens. But I'm not exactly desperate to find out, am I? I'll tell you what I am looking forward to.
Actually. Tell us something.
The one bit of the trailer that I did actually grab my attention was the animation coming out of the screen, and that was actually I did like that a lot. That was actually a very generally good Doctor Who kind of like weird idea. I love that because there's something a little bit creepy about those old cartoons. Remember, like the silent films, the 1920s silent films, where they'll play like a little. I say 20s. I think any sort of around the early 18th century, 19th century, I guess maybe. Where it'll show like a little bit of the clip moving, and then it'll pause, and then they'll see a bit of text come up, and then it'll continue playing. there's something a little bit eerie about that, and this is something like when I watched it, I thought, yeah, that's such a good Doctor Who kind of idea. Cartoons coming out of the screens, that's something like that scares kids because there's a lot of Doctor Who like statues. Doctor Who is very good at taking real life things and making it scary. They did it with statues, they did it with TV, they did it with water. So again, they'll be doing it with TV twice, I guess, in that sense, because kids watching cartoons. If you watch Doctor Who, they're like, oh, what the next time I watch a cartoon, it'll come out and get me. I genuinely really like that bit. So I'm actually quite looking forward to that episode. So I hope it doesn't.
Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny? Everybody's watching us, right? I set this up as the bi-generates after the giggle. 2 generations of Whovians. Do they agree? And I've just asked you about Mrs. Flood, and you've quite rightly said what does excite you is that animation, but not. And I love Anita Dobson, and as somebody said, is she going to reveal herself as Mrs. Watts, Den's wife? The thing is, this is RTD clearly is missing his pitch because in one way you could say he's got it right at last. The cartoon one looks as though it's excited you, as it has me. But this Mrs. Flood 2-season arc is not exciting you. That's a big mishit.
Yeah, because it's about the monsters.
Yes.
It's about the science. It's what we watched Doctor Who for. I mean, okay, the storylines, and some have been better than others. I mean, Series 6, I still don't know what happened there. But it's like, I don't even know if Russell's even writing that episode. I don't know. It might have been. It could be the guy that you put up on screen earlier. But I feel like they're missing a trick. They need to go back to my favorite type of episodes, and it's weird because I'm like I'm a very, very upbeat person. But yeah, I love the darker stories. My favorite stories. Yeah. My top 3 stories. Number 1 is Waters of Mars, and then 2 and 3 can flip on different days, but it would be in either no particular order. Caves of Androzani, a dark story, and Midnight. There's a lot of some dark, grim stories. Those are my favourite when they focus on the monsters and they focus on the scary bits. When it's just Doctor Who being Doctor Who, and the less of the cutesy stuff and less being kind of relatable. And I want you to entertain me, I want you to scare me, I want you to unsettle me. That's what I want. That's what I like to see in my Doctor Who. Not this so much this E17. I don't mean to sound disrespectful way, but I think is she a villain? I mean, she could be. I have to see what she do, where they go with it. She could.
Well, what about
do a good pair? She doesn't intimidate me. I don't know if it's just because she's an older lady. I don't mean that in a bad way, but she doesn't look threatening. She just looks like some sort of Mary.
The big rumor is, and remember, RTD makes it up as he goes along. We know that from the writer's tale, and sometimes that's because you can be a gifted writer, but sometimes it doesn't work. The 4 knocks did work. He eventually worked that out, and it was a nice finish with Bernard Cribbins. But with this one, this obsession with the gods. Now, remember, Sutek named them all in The Empire of Death. So I've got a nasty feeling season 2 will have the Mara, will have the Maestro, will have the Trickster, and may have the Toymaker back at the finish in the control room or something. Because then I think he's going to wrap up the 2 seasons with the gods and the fantasy. And so my fear is, I mean, I love the Mara now. I didn't when I was a kid. I found it boring, but now I love it. The Mara.
The special effects.
I know. But the Mara coming back under RTD, no. Trickster, well, that was Sarah Jane Adventures, and I have to say, I'll show my age. It didn't really grab me. I don't want the gods. As you said it, your generation said, I want the monsters back. And so all this does not appeal. And if Mrs. Flood is the god of storytelling, boring, not interested.
Yeah, I've kind of got that worry now. Actually, it's just giving me head. I feel like what if it isn't about the cartoons? What if that's only one scene? What if it isn't about that and it's a Maestro episode, but for one scene she takes over a cartoon or whatever? I suppose that's a little worry. I don't mind gods. We've had gods before, like with the gods of Ragnarok and all that from this Greatest Show in the Galaxy. But like, I hope it's not all of it. I hope there's more variety, and we can go back to just some classic monsters. just some one-time things. Does everything have to be this whole big collective group of all the toy makers' children and everyone? And all these little pantheon of messing. Are they all in a WhatsApp group or something? All taking turns. It's just.
What about this?
It has its place. I'm not one of these people that are completely against fantasy and all elements.
It's just.
But then usually, even in
I think my argument.
Always a sci-fi.
My argument is, Cinnamon, we're not getting any sci-fi, so to go into the fantasy nonsense, which can have its place, the mind robber and all that stuff. But please, sci-fi. Now, this one, does this excite you? The war between the land and the sea this year?
Is it coming out this year?
I think so.
I've heard that. Didn't they delay this? I've not really paid too much attention to it. It's in the can
now, so obviously they're doing all the mad production now.
Yeah, so I suppose it doesn't just really matter when it comes out. I don't really know enough of it, but again, I'm not really. I mean, you could probably just tell. Look, I'm not really that. We've not seen enough of it. We don't know much about it. I mean, okay, Sea Devils, I imagine. I'd hate for it to one up the main show. I'd hate for this to be considered, or I'd hate for this to be well received in the main show. It isn't. That'd be a bit awkward. It's different territory. I don't know. I mean, you can maybe gauge. I mean, I don't know. Can we go off Torchwood? Can we look at the spin-off shows he's done before? Because again, those are from those are from years ago when Doctor Who was in a better place. What does Doctor Who spin-off look like now? Not the main show, so he can relatively do what he wants with it, I suppose. So I'd have to wait and see.
Yeah, Cinnamon does as well. We were both at the football last night. We're in a good mood because Middles actually won a match for once. But yes, the war between the land. I'm looking forward to it. Sea Devils, as everyone knows, was my stepping on point to Doctor Who, my intro to Doctor Who. The way the Sea Devils have been treated since has been shabby. Warriors of the Deep and the Legend of the Sea Devils was naffas. So I'm worried about that. I like the sound of this 5-parter, apart from I don't want the environmental message to be too strong because it's a bit passé now. The other thing is, even with Torchwood and Sarah Jane Adventures and Class, I always want the main show to be stronger. And I don't want the spin-off to be stronger than the main show. And that is the worry at the moment, that this might be a nice, tasty 5-episoder, gritty, on Earth, you know what I mean? Like a mini unit. And I can see how some casual viewers might, if they pitch it right, might buy into this more than the Doctor Who with maestro and singing songs. Do you see what I mean? This might actually look more gritty.
This is what I mean. You don't want it, a bit like a parasite. A parasite that has to live off another organism. You don't want the parasite to be stronger than the actual organism. It's like, not that I said call it a parasite, but you don't want this to upstage the main show. The only sort of 2 questions I've really got about it, I am actually vaguely interested to see what they're going to do with Russell Tovey's character, because I don't know if it's Alonso's going to be coming back or he's going to be playing a different character, and the actress who plays Tish, that's 2 former actors coming back roles possibly. So and people are going to recognise it, so they're going to have to explain that one a little bit like they did with Martha having a cousin who died at Torchwood, or whatever it was. The quick little explanation. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but they've got 2 former people who've been in the show before, so I wonder how they'll get around that one. But,
yeah, well, we'll see. So that's that one. I'm trying my best here. Now, the ratings and the audience figures that were leaked, they told us everything, didn't they? That actually, if we're looking forward to season 2, why? I mean, I haven't really heard much from Cinnamon that's saying we are looking forward to it. The other thing is, season 1 didn't land very well. I know that. You know that. It started extremely badly, of course, and then kind of found its shaky feet, but that was it. So we're not in a good position if this is Happy Who Year, as they called it. Now, moving on. How much are you looking forward to this? Is this on order, Cinnamon? Season 7?
Yes, this is being pre-ordered. Again, like I said earlier, these are like some of the best. This is like one of the arguably the best things about the show and everything connected to Doctor at the minute. Regardless of how you feel about when the main show is, you know what you're getting from these. You're getting care. I mean, I strangely enough never used to watch the special editions because I somehow got in my head that they were quite different, or they were movie length things, and they weren't. I got them confused with the omnibuses or whatever they are. I checked out the. I haven't watched it all, but I did flicker through it. When we did, and even just you watch, the Happiness Patrol and like the little world building, and like when they edit the scenes, and they'll have a whole big neon city and a ship flying in the background, and then they'll cut it to the Doctor walking down the street. It makes it feel much bigger than it is, rather than just the fact that it was probably just 3 sets. Like that set with the bench, that's the same bench for like 3 times.
Right, Cinnamon. I'm going to ask you a question now and see what you and the thread say. I've started to change my opinion on what you're just saying. I haven't watched the Happiness Patrols and Silver Nemesis yet. I've got the set downstairs, but I'm making so many shows at the moment that I'm struggling to fit them all in. But I am starting to change my mind on this, because after the Daleks in colour and after the War Games in colour, I think because of the Blu-rays and adding these extra little bits of effect, for good or bad, Day of the Daleks, etc., Horror Fan Rock, I'm starting to wonder that the program makers in Doctor Who think they can change everything. And I don't agree with that. If anybody's seen my streams on the War Games in colour, I really am finding that problematic. So if they think they can change Day of the Daleks, they can change Horror Fan Rock, they can change Happiness Patrol, Silver Nemesis, and add all the bits you've said, that means they can also do anything they want to any episode of Doctor Who in the last 61 years. And that worries me.
Yeah, but I've thought about that myself. I know the difference. I think there's a slight difference between the two, because when I look at these, when I check them out, because I get them all, and when I check out, updated special effects on Horror Fan Rock, right? Okay, let's see the differences, and then you compare them. I think the difference is that it's the message and the message and the ideology behind it, and the intention. I don't agree with the fact where they have to massively cut down an episode and have to colorize it and have to have it suit the modern audience, because apparently the modern audience is struggling so hard to sit. I mean, of course, War Games is 10 parts. That's long, but they're not all that long. You know, if we're really being told to believe that Classic Who is so difficult to watch, when I would disagree. If I'm Gen Z, I've never once had a problem watching Classic Who. It never felt like it was dated. Of course, I prefer it in colour, but I am, a staunch believer that the 60s era belongs to black and white. It's the intention behind it, because when you watch these updated special effects, all I just see them as making it, the genuinely just cleaning it up. I look. What was it? The other day I was watching one of them. I was just flicking through them, just checking the old. I was just literally, because they're just sat up there, and I thought, I'm going to take them out and put them in my PlayStation, and I'm going to see some of them. And some of them really do improve it. And then it's not just about chopping and changing and removing, because the difference I see is, again, with the colorizations, they're massively reducing the footage, cutting it down into such a cheap, like, microwavable meal that you can just, it's shot in the microwave for 2 minutes, it's done, bang. It's just cutting it down, colorize. If all they did was colorize the entire story, which they won't do because they'll say it's too expensive and it'll take too long, well, then don't do it then. If they were to colorize the original story and all of its footage, I'd be absolutely on board with all that. I'd love that. But these updated special effects, I don't mind them. Like the creature in Horror Fan Rock, it was just a sort of green sponge on the floor. Now, I prefer the new one because it looks a little bit more like an alien. Some people won't like it, but
it's really funny, and I'm gonna, we do love Doctor Who too, and this is what's funny. But because we're the bi-generates, I find this really funny. There's me, Generation X. I only represent myself, of course. I really want to see colorization, and I want it. I just think 60s Who could be sold so much better by being colorized. However, I don't want all the faff and all the stuff going on. Now, just for but whereas you prefer the black and white, and your Generation Z, I find it really interesting. Tinted Who did these, right? Sensorites, colorized. Look at this. And we are the Sensphere, so I'm obviously into these. There's the Sensorite story in color. Oh, isn't it beautiful? I mean, this is what I mean. Please do these. Don't edit them. Don't add special effects. Just let us appreciate there was color there. I mean, look at that cinnamon. That's beautiful. It's the Sensphere.
Yeah. Yeah, because it doesn't change anything about the story or the content of the story or the footage. They're not change. The only thing that's different is now you can see more color. And I would say, while you should always keep the black and white versions, because those are the original versions, people, even if you were to colorize all the stories, people would still want the original black and white ones, and that's absolutely fine. I would want them too, to be honest, because those were the original ones that we first saw. But if they were, instead of these chopping and changing, like these edits that they're doing, and sorry, but Ben Cook butchering them as he does, if they were to just colorize all of the story in its entirety, like this one, if we could just watch all, how many parts are there to censor? Six parts. So it might be a little bit longer because you just know that's the excuse they're going to trot out. Oh, it'll take too long. It'll be too expensive. Well, then don't do it. Then if you can't afford it and can't be bothered putting the time, then don't do it. Simple as that. Same reason why they don't like. I suppose. I mean, then again, I don't know because they seem happy enough to do the animations for 6-part story. So I don't know. I'm not the budget. I don't know how long it would take. But if they were to release the Sensorite or any story, if they were to release it with all the footage and just colorize it and that's it, then people would like that. I would like that. I'd get it in a heartbeat. Marco Polo apparently has, when you look at because there are some colorized set pictures, it looks fantastic. So why not?
When I heard about the Daleks in color before it came, and yes, the editing of that and the adventure sequence in the middle was awful. But when I look at, like you say, photographs, and this has been colorized by Tinted Who, so thank you for that. These are beautiful. And you just think, I think you'd reach a wider market. It's a bit like Thunderbirds. Jerry Anderson was clever. He made his shows in color, even when Britain was still doing black and white. So his series had longevity and great potential in the end to last longer than it did. Now, Doctor Who could find a renaissance if the 60s stories were just left as they were, because people love 60s TV and nostalgia, but just colorized them and just added a bit of pizzazz. And like you said, clean them up a bit, of course, as well. I mean, that just looks... Do you know what? I'm not saying it because I'm the Sensphere, but oh my God, I'd just love to watch that. I think it would add a lot of my appreciation of it just to see it as it looked to William Hartnell and Carol Ann Ford and William Russell when they were acting it. Oh, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
You'd see it as they saw it, because it helped with the immersion a little bit as well, because it would be seamless transition, because you would go from watching all the 60s Doctor Who in colour, and then start in the 70s as well in colour as it was. So you'd be watching all the Doctor Who in colour. So it would be like, like you start from the black and white, and then it suddenly one day, all of a sudden it's in colour. It would just, I suppose, if you really want to go down that route, I suppose it would entice maybe new people to maybe watch if there is more colour. Like I say, I'm sorry, Phil Collinson, but I don't agree with that notion that if people are really struggling to watch classic, I think that's them problem. Because again, I'm 22. When I was growing up watching classic Who, discovering it for the first time, I had no problems. Some of the special effects didn't look as good as the new show. Obviously, it wouldn't, would it? But it never bothered me. I was just so excited and so interested. Wow, this is a different Doctor that I've, because I was used to my Doctor Who being David Tennant and Matt Smith and the new show. And then when I realised there was a whole pantheon of like old Doctors that I could also explore as well, I was more excited and more interested in watching the fifth Doctor. I wasn't bothered that it was like only like there was black borders and it wasn't widescreen because they didn't have widescreen, or it didn't bother me that it was black and white. I was just so excited to watch older Doctor Who.
Rick Storm makes an interesting point here because it's a bit like the Democrats and the Republicans in the inauguration. You can hear who was cheering who. It's a bit like Peter Purvis asking everybody in the audience recently that we get told, "Do you like the new series?" And everyone goes, "No." If you test the public, they might get a shock. So, as you say, Rick Storm, why didn't they release the War Games in color, fully colorized? I know there's a budget issue, but I know the point you're making, Rick Storm. If you just saw the cleaned up colorized version and then the cut down version, which one would everybody buy? And I bet you it would be the original. And then you think, well, what's going on here? I mean, Tomb of the Cybermen, 4-episode story, would look great in color. Clean it up, brilliant. I'd buy it again. We've all bought it how many times, but yeah.
By definition, it's literally superior. If you're gonna have, hello, Brendan. I've got two offers for you. Okay, would you like the War Games colorized but chopped down, and with different edits and probably weird music all over it that makes it look weird? Or would you like the original War Games with all the footage, with all 10 parts, all just in color? Same story, nothing's been touched, no edits, no. The only thing that's literally different is just the color. You're going to go for the full story because you're getting more. Yeah. You're getting the full thing. You're not getting cut down version.
Well, you want the authentic. I mean, if you want to appreciate as they were made, as they looked to your parents or grandparents as well. And actually, look, I know some of my nieces and nephews are getting quite into the Kinks and stuff, the vinyl. They're getting into all the 60s music. Just the same, you could have young people who are going, oh, God, BBC 4 showing an old story from the 60s. Let's have a look. And they've cleaned it up. They've colorized it. I mean, come on. Let William Hartnell stand on his own 2 feet, and you might find you get new fans. Carol Fan, I understand what you're saying. I do my politics show. Some people like Donald Trump. Some people don't. I'm just bringing them into it regarding the zeitgeist of where we're going at the moment and whether it affects Doctor Who. Because I think RTD needs to... He brought Kamala Harris into one of his interviews and talked about that's where he was going. So Carol Fan, the trouble is, we've got a showrunner who has kept his eye on American and British politics and I think is making the show at risk of being abused, criticised, laughed at, mocked, ridiculed. But I agree, Carol Fan, that it's Doctor Who, and the politics show is for another one. Now, Lee Smith wants an argument with me. I prefer the Sensorites in black and white. I understand that, especially part 1 and 2 in black and white, the thriller aspect might be stronger, more evocative in black and white. I get that. I don't know. I'm a glutton for colour. You can see where I stand.
And also, to maybe add to Lee's point, there might be another element that certain stories like this might look good, but then, they knew as well that when they were making these sets, some bits, even with colour, might look a little bit awkward because they knew it was going to be filmed in black and white. So they never, for example, like when you see in the Daleks where it's like it's a fake corridor. It's not really a corridor, but it looks like a corridor. In black and white, it makes it a little bit more believable. But when it's in colour, you can kind of see it a bit more clearly. Little things like that where you think, because they knew it was going to be recorded and filmed in black and white, they could maybe cheat certain things or maybe get around certain things, or they wouldn't put so much detail in colorizing things, because why would you? If it's going to be in black and white, okay, the actors are going to see it, but the millions and millions of people at home aren't going to appreciate all that color you just did on like that thing on his head. If that thing on his head there was, if the real production team put loads and loads of color on it, it would be a little bit pointless, really, because we wouldn't see it. So I guess in that element, there is that part of it too. I would suppose that some stories might look a little bit odd, even if they are colorized. But again, even this picture, you look at this, and I know it's just a screenshot. I know it's just one image, and not seeing the full clip play. But like, this looks good to me. Like I say, we'll always have the black and white version. I'll absolutely always be a firm believer of that. Always keep the original, and always want the original where you can. But have this as an extra, and that's why I always care about the special effects. That's why I love in these Blu-ray collection sets. It's always an option. They're not forced into it. They're not trying to push like, no, we're gonna do a Series 7 collection, but it's only with the new effects. Or if you want the old stories, you have to go and buy the old DVDs. It's all together. It's all in one package. There's no agenda. And I don't mind the special effects. I feel like they do generally give them a little bit of life.
So what's everybody
a bit easy with it?
So what's everybody thinking? I mean, as the Senssphere, I mean, it took me hours to think about what I was going to call my channel, and I came up with the Senssphere. So I kind of have a kind of affinity with the Sensorites. So when I saw these colorized versions, I just thought, oh God, it's just lovely, and it's lovely to see William Hartnell's first Doctor in color. And I have to say, Stephen Moffat, stop criticizing him. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Now, I've got new people joining us now. This is incredible, and I'm trying my best, Cosmic Toyman. I know you've found us twice now this week. I know there is a schedule somewhere. I've done pilot shows as well, so I suppose it's one of those weeks where I'm just kind of finding my feet again. New Who Hater says just color the full stories like they would have in more sane times before RTD had full control. Good to see Daryl Joyce. Hello, we'll have to get you back on. Please look out his illustrations. I was looking at, was it Plans of the Daleks? I'm trying to remember what you had on the other day on Twitter. But yeah, the problem I have with colorization is that I find the background history of Doctor Who as interesting as the best stories. And to me, black and white 60s is part of that history of TV before the move to color in 1970. I get your point. If you want to be authentic, that is the authentic version. I don't know. I'm a glutton, just like you, Daryl Joyce. He's doing a second book now, and he's doing all the cliffhangers, Cinnamon, Doctor Who cliffhangers, and he's illustrating them. I mean, they're beautiful. And you showed me a couple, didn't you, on our monsters debate? Daryl, I'll have to get you back on. Let's get in touch. And please, everybody, look out Daryl Joyce, his book, and also on Twitter. Love his work. Absolutely beautiful. Farsight. As a kid, I couldn't wait to see the VHS releases of The Unearthly Child and The Web Planet in black and white. The black and white added a creepiness. Yeah, I agree. As Richard Brown says, it's more noirish. I agree again. I do. I am terribly inconsistent with my arguments. You know me. Well, we've really gone around the houses here, Cinnamon. Just so people know, Sunday we had Philip Morris on. That was an added bonus. It was good fun. Even see the puppets meet him. And I make the point, and I wasn't being a grifter, and I wasn't trying to bait people. I mean what I say. I just thought, when you really sit down in a dark room and you think of everything said by the New Who teams over the years, how much do they really sound as though they're like Doctor Who? Because I'll give you one example. If you've messed on with the regenerations into a Tinkerbell gold dust, and you've put it into the War Games, and you've put it into the First Doctor regenerating, you're poisoning the show with your mentality, and nobody in the future will be able to do a kind of Planet of the Spiders regeneration because it looks as though everyone's got to do the same. And so I have a lot of arguments. You can shoot them down, but it's a fun debate. That's on there Sunday. Obviously, Philip Morris had things to say about the rights to the Daleks in 2025. It's only a 4-minute video. Look that one out. Obviously, me and Rachel on Friday nights at 7 p.m, everybody. That was the week that was woke. When we look at the culture wars and media and politics, and it's only for an hour, but we kind of look around the topics. That was the week that was woke. 7 p.m. Fridays. And of course, Michael Herbert, the Malcolm Hulke biographer, the videos there, called the War Games in Colour a travesty and an insult. It's a nice, tasty little discussion there. So I'm doing a lot. We did the politics show on the inauguration on Monday night. The detox will be on Friday at 11. Plenty of details. Sunday show as usual at 6. I'll talk to Cinnamon about our bigenerates because this has gone down a storm. I mean, the thread has been really lively. It's been lovely to see everybody. I never know whether you're all working or what. I mean, just don't know where everybody is. Cosmic Toyman, I am more than happy with black and white, though. If I get my new eyes on the classic series, then I encourage colorization too. There is room for both.
Just a new way to... Not a new way in the right sense, not a new way, new and modern, because we have to change it to suit modern art. It just gives it a fresh way of looking at it. Because, you know, like I say, we're not butchering it, we're not chopping and changing and removing things. It's exactly all there as it was before, just in colour. It's you know, it gives it new options and new rewatchability, if that makes sense. You know, I don't know. I'm an advocate for it, I suppose.
Well, thank you, and it's a kind of good to have you back on, Cinnamon. You've been on out this show for nearly a year, really. So great to have you on again. And the thread, you've been fantastic. Dirty Hambles just joined us there with the thread. I mean, it's been wonderful. Thanks for your compliment there, even though I can't say your name very well. Doing some good stuff, Brendan. Well, we try our best with my politics show. Tell us what debates you want. Do you want us to get into Brexit? Do you want us to go mad about that? Do you on the Talking TV? I'm talking to somebody where we can talk about Saturday night TV. Let's get nostalgic about that. That was the week that was woke on Gmail and on X. Will you give us some items you want me and Rachel to talk about? There's a review of the Terror of the Autons coming up where we get tasty. What would the shooty doctor do? Oh, I mean, there's so much fun ahead. Thank you. I will always say thank you to people who've joined us over the last year. It's been lovely, lovely community. And just tell us what you want. So Lee Smith.
I'll tell you what I don't want. I've just realised I've got a Beatles t-shirt on. You can probably see Maestro somewhere in the distance.
Oh, yeah, you'll have that bit with it's that bit with the TARDIS at the end when it opens the door to a musical beat.
Yeah, hopping in the white bit of the road and flashing off like a keyboard.
Well, thank you for coming on, Cinnamon. Thank you to the thread. And look out for us at 11 o'clock on Friday, The Detox. Is there more Doctor Who content? Of course there is. Right, see you again, everybody. See you, Cinnamon. Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone. Please subscribe.